Hola, hello. Yes, hi, me again. I don't have anything to do but learn and talk to myself in a camera and share it with the world because people are getting some, decent stuff out of it. So I was over here thinking about the Christ consciousness, right? And kind of how it relates to my other theory of religion being the kind of guide to curing mental illness, right? When you cure the mental illness, through the religious text as under ways to understand the brain, right? The religious texts are not so much rules for going to hell as they are more of hey, if your brain does this, try this. And if these are some methods that help you, because when I started breaking down religion, I started looking at rituals and things like that, and kind of started realizing how they really helped some of the compulsive behaviors in my mind, and understanding, as I was exploring my mental illness, exploring compulsive thoughts or, mild obsessive compulsive, in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But, having all of these things and all these rituals being in like series of threes and, it's like, you know, it's probably it's probably all due to just the mathematics of the universe, because the mathematics of the universe is all patterns, patterns and loops, so everything is just, it's all a series of patterns, and it's all mathematical. So they develop these rituals to combat some of the neurotic behaviors that they encountered before we had psychology or psychiatry, right? So they would, these are the things, and then but here's kind of the flip side of that, right? The flip side of that coin is that if you don't have neurosis, and you don't have mental illness, and say you start practicing some of these things that are made for it, you can develop a mental illness, or you can use it to enhance your natural abilities, right? You use these religious practices to enhance your natural abilities, which is what they do with like yoga and meditation and things like that, right? So, getting deeper into it, maybe, that was that was maybe the downfall of Christianity, was making it a one size fits all thing, and us having so many people, in this, like test subject area, right? We're in a test subject area where, here's this main religion that is being was more or less kind of forced upon people in a land of freedom of religion, in a way, not necessarily like gun to your head, worship my God, but there's a lot of social pressure in America to not, to be a Christian, and it just doesn't sit with everyone, right? Not everyone's mentally healthy enough to just accept that sort of unknown story, right? Me, I wasn't mentally healthy enough to just accept that, right? Something was wrong with my brain, and I needed to know more. I needed to know more. I needed to know why, and it drove me crazy since I was 5 years old. I didn't know why anything. I didn't know. It drove me nuts. I couldn't figure anything out. I couldn't understand why I felt that I was so powerful but had no power. Right? I couldn't figure that out. Ever since I was 5, I was like, I feel so powerful, but I don't know. I don't understand why I can't control my circumstances, because I was raised in a very poor environment. So ultimately, that is kind of spun in my head for 30 some odd years, and it ultimately drove me crazy, which I was able to kind of learn from and kind of reverse engineer my brain and rehack it. There's a lot of books out there on hacking your brain, and I kind of broke it down to where I broke it down and got it real simple and understood the loops, right? The more I understood the patterns and the loops, and since my brain is really good at recognizing patterns and loops, it was very easy for me to go and kind of reconcile things in my life and look at what I did in the past and look at the outcome. And I did that with everything. I did all my correlations with the mind mapping, and then I took all the behaviors that led to me and to my downfall, and I just kind of reversed it. I just was like, all right, well, and every time I came to a decision that stretched out my beliefs, I laid it all on the line, and I said, hey, I'm just gonna live. I'm not gonna concern myself with what others believe. I'm gonna look for the truth. That's what I do. I want to find out where we came from. Me personally, that's a personal passion of mine. I want to know, I want a good explanation of where we came from, and we still don't have that. We're starting to understand the quantum field now, which is going to give us more understanding of what we are and how we operate in a quantum field, but it doesn't answer, the I want a face-to-face meeting. I want God to tell me how I was created and how He was created. That's what I want to know, or her, or it, or whatever. I want to know the source of light. Best theory I've got is just it was a naturally occurring thing that happens when the Big Bang happens. There's so much pressure that it creates consciousness when there's a Big Bang. It's just it pierces dimensional. It's so powerful. It pierces dimensions and joins them together. It like joins dimensions together when the explosion happens. Probably that's what my best guess. But I'm an idiot, right? So don't take my word for it. Let's let the scientists figure it out. And the guys who paid all that money to go to school, they deserve to figure that out for themselves, right? But I'll believe that that's an okay belief for me until it's a good theory until something else comes along that allows me to expand my understanding. So ultimately I was thinking about the Christ consciousness and how it's it's kind of like it's a program. It's a program that is designed probably for mental health, because I definitely experienced a lot of that euphoria as I was fixing my self, and but that was when my ego took over and was like, oh man, look at me, I'm magic, I'm Jesus, and I can do but then I couldn't do anything, and then my ego went crashing down. It's like, boo, you can't do anything, brother. And then it was like, literally felt like I died on the cross, right? I felt so bad that I wasn't magic. I felt so bad that I wasn't magic. I think that's people with messed up brains like me, idiots like me, want to be magic. We want to be special. I think most humans want to be special, but it's like not until you give that up do you find something else. And it was like that need to be special was keeping me from realizing how special I was. Oh, that's a cute moment, right? I know, right? But it's the truth. Like it's those weird simple truths that really ring true. It's like, and because I wanted to be special, I never could see how special I was. And I'm an idiot, and I was able to do a lot of things as an idiot in this world, which at the end of the day feels pretty good. When you're as dumb as I am, and you just happen upon some great wisdom and understand it, and able to fix yourself and help other people fix themselves. But I think as far as the Christ consciousness is concerned, it's you'll see it in people when they start off with this euphoria of oh, holy smokes, this is the good news, because they've realized something, right? Something deep, something profound that they've realized that changes their entire life, right? And much like what I did, I found something deep and profound that changed my life, and that was just that, like, you know, life is pretty weird. Life is already kind of paradoxical, so it's like you really can't trust anything, except for what you kind of experience. And I kind of ran with that, and my life just kind of improved. but like I said, there was a lot of ups and downs. When I kind of changed my life, I was like up. I was at a super high for like probably 6 months. I was at a super high for like 6 months, because I was just happy. It was just like, wow, my life is changed, guys. I've changed my life. I've forgiven myself for my I've forgiven myself for not fixing my life earlier. That was probably one of the hardest things to do, was to forgive myself for not doing what I needed to do all along. Which was not even hard. I lived on that teeter that whole life. That I was that like middle of the road guy. I didn't want to have an opinion on anything. I didn't really care. I didn't care about anything. And my life showed it. So then once I started caring, that's how I really didn't care, because I didn't know how to care. I didn't know what love was. I cared to an extent, but I felt, through my childhood trauma, that I was going to always be alone anyway. So I never put that much stock in other people anyway. So I got to that point, and so being alone and kind of learning self-mastery was really what benefited me, not so much the Christ consciousness that the piece of the Christ consciousness that I think I might have touched when I went mentally ill, and had to kind of figure my life out. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to go to a doctor, and which was probably good, because they just would have shot me up full of drugs, and I wouldn't be a healthy, active member of society now. If they would have done that, I would not have been healed. I would have just been reliant on a system, and no thanks. It's not a life I want. So I want that's the freedom of kind of understanding the benefits of what that part of the Bible did, as far as understanding those stories, really helped me, get through that point. When I, reached that point where I thought I was Jesus, and I'm like, oh, I'm Jesus, I'm, and went insane, right? And then when I, lived that life, and I wasn't like going around saying I was Jesus, because I was like, this is dumb. I was just, really enjoying my life, but that feeling I understand, because I could definitely see myself, in a different world, saying, oh, look at me, I'm Jesus. But it was like, I was kind of just being very flippant and joking with it. I'm like, haha, look at me, guys, I'm sarcastic rebel Jesus. And it was, it was just fun. It was fun to kind of just play and participate in the world, just because of the way. But then it was like, as it went on, like when I fell, when I quote unquote died on the cross of my own making, it was throughout this whole experience of learning how to learn intuitively, you have to like put yourself out there on faith sometimes, right? It's like you get an intuitive feeling, and you're like, okay, maybe this is what it means. So you're putting faith in your decision making, right? And the more the better decisions you make. So if you already make good decisions, then adding intuition into your decision-making process will make your decisions even better, right? And if you make bad decisions, then you probably misinterpret your intuition, which means you need to learn some things. It's that simple, right? It's just you don't have the brain capacity to interpret what your intuition is trying to tell you, right? You're catching it on the wrong level, right? You're catching it on the wrong vibration, so to speak, right? So, but ultimately, what I think the Christ consciousness ultimately is when when you accept being king of your life, right, of your life, right, you fully accept your fate, so to speak, right, because I think the Christians have a saying that says Christ is king, right? So if Christ is king, then your pineal gland, when you activate your crown chakra, right, you can activate your crown chakra. So I think that's maybe what I did, was activate my crown chakra, but I didn't accept anything at that point, right, because I wasn't I didn't want any responsibilities. I wanted to be like one of those gurus out in the trees in the forest. I wanted to be one of those gurus that separated themselves from people, right? And that was when I reached that point in my life. I was so happy, and it was just it changed my life so profoundly, and I was able to just, it seemed like everything that I did to help myself, I was able to help someone else with that same problem. And it was just, the more I helped people, the better I felt. But then it got to a point where I ran out of people to help, and I didn't know what to do. And I just kind of I stirred around in that for a while, and that's kind of when I fell. After a couple misinterpretations of my intuition, because like I said, I'm dumb. I'm just now learning how to read my intuition, but luckily I've lived off of my intuition most of my life, which has gotten me this far. That's when I look back at my successes in life, they've all been due to my intuition, not because of me by any stretch of the imagination, right? All of my successes were because of my intuition. My marriages were initiated through an intuitive feeling, right, that I got for those people. And had I been able to just interpret those feelings as a learning opportunity, instead of oh my God, I feel this so much in my chest, this is love, and that's the thing, love is just a little bit lower. You feel love just a little bit lower, than you feel your intuition. And when they're synced, that's crazy. It's a crazy feeling. But that's but that's the thing. I didn't know any better. I wasn't taught anything. I didn't really have much guidance as a child. So that the only time I'd ever felt my intuition was around things that I really liked or loved. So but then misinterpreting it, I end up making a lot of mistakes with women, getting into relationships that I shouldn't have, because my intuition was telling me, hey, this woman is probably someone you can learn from, right? You don't necessarily have to marry them to learn from them. Calm down. Right? So that's my pathetic dating life up until now. Now I'm a stud. Like, and I don't even date, so that's how I know I'm a stud, because I don't date. I stay here and I make videos and talk about this kind of stuff and hopefully find other people that like this kind of stuff, because this is all I really like to talk about. And dating is pointless right now, because most people that I run into have no grasp of any of this. And that's why I started making videos. I started meeting people that wanted me to explain this stuff, and I would talk for hours at a bar. Now I can get my time back and just say, hey, go to this website and watch this video, and you'll kind of get an idea of what I mean. But it's all about the crown, accepting the responsibility. So those of you who are on the path of Christ consciousness, there are some things that you can probably do, or some things that you can realize that'll help you, where surrender is important, right? Surrender is important, and that's where you surrender to your higher self, your intuition. So you have to commit to learning your intuition. Once you commit to learning from your intuition, you can then commit to acting on your interpretations, right? So it's learn your intuition and then act on them. So and then once you get the, once you reach that state of complete like bliss or whatever, where it's like, what the Hindus would probably, or like, those Eastern religions are like nirvana or samadhi or whatever I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm bad with that stuff, but when you reach a state of bliss, there's another step that probably people don't really do, and those who take that next step and go off to do great things from what it looks like, like Marcus Aurelius, Alexander the Great, Plato, they all had the Christ consciousness where they had the realization about what life really is, and they kept going. They didn't live in that blissful place, right? They moved on to do great things. So you have to understand that the Christ consciousness is meant for people to do great things with it. I gave up on it. It's too hard for me. That's, they say those who can do and those who can't teach. Right? So I'm trying to teach other people to do it because I'm starting a church, and I would like to see my church have like more than one Jesus. That would be dope. Like, imagine having one church and you got dudes that got superpowers. That's the kind of church I'm trying to have, right? Because life is all about playing. I think we should all be playing. And so, I'm hoping that people out here that are looking for the Christ consciousness, learn to, submit, surrender, and accept, surrender and acceptance. It's a process of surrender and acceptance. Because you're going to want to fight everything that's brought at you, and you have to surrender and accept everything first. So you have to, so that what you have to understand is every time you get a feeling, you have to you have to act on it. Like, I would get intuitive feelings that I would match synchronizations and be like, I was like, break up with your girlfriend, right? And I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to break up with my girlfriend. I really like her. I was like, well, and then I would read my intuition and be like, okay, well, she needs to, it's the right thing to do. She needs to grow spiritually. I need to grow spiritually. In order to do that, I need to be alone. So I did it, and it was like I was rewarded instantly with this like, surge of energy that rose into in my body. So, it was just like moments like that. It was doing those things, that was listening to my intuition and getting it right. So when you get it right, I think it rises, that Kundalini rises within you, and it's and that's the thing. I think it's a seat of high, very very high confidence, right? So something I'm still working on. But it's very interesting. So I think I think there's some simple things to do to get started, right? Which is that process of acceptance and surrender, and and learning and observing and trying to learn intuitively. So if anybody, if you have any specific questions, and I'm bad at this, I just start rambling, and people take what they need to take out of it. So if you need, have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have want to discuss this, we can maybe set up something where we talk about it. I have plenty of time. Like I said, divorced dad here with nothing but time on his hands and no desires other than to help people. So there's that. I know, trust me, once I come into myself, I'm going to be way more cocky and arrogant, but I'm still learning myself. So this is a process. Maybe when I have my church and I'm up on stage and I'm dancing and I'm like, and praise Her Majesty, and I'll be able to feel the next thing. I only feel confidence when I'm in the spirit, you know what I'm saying? Because that's, that's what I was, anything good I've ever done, that's what it was. I was in my intuition. I was in my, in my spirit. When I would do comedy, I couldn't remember anything. I would go up there and just talk, and I forget all my written stuff, and I would just talk, and I was like, let my higher self take over. I was like, yeah, everybody liked it. I was like, that's only, but if I couldn't access that, I was horrible on stage. So, but yeah, no, thanks for watching, if anybody does. Maybe one day. But yeah, remember there's more steps to it. Don't linger at the door of eternity and stand in awe. You know, don't just stand in the door of eternity in awe, looking at everything and how great it is, because we've got work to do